Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think I should be saying Eid Mubarak. If it isn't now, it's very soon. Assalamu alaikum. We've come to the end of a fascinating journey of the healthy Muslim in Ramadan. I hope you've been able to be with us a few times on this journey. We've used the month of Ramadan as a time when the human individual is absolutely turned upside down in terms of his life and his experience of himself through fasting, through prayer, and through the difficulties and deep pleasures, and I mean pleasure, spiritual pleasure, of an extraordinary month. This month is ordered to us for our religion. It is essential for our understanding of who we are. It is the month in which the Quran was sent, and during this month, through the fasting, we come to learn more about who we are through the perspective of the Quran. We started with an understanding of the simple day-to-day stuff that we had to get used to at the beginning of Ramadan, of fasting, of how to balance our activities and our sleep, how to balance our food and our fasting, how to balance the intake of our water, and how we make sure that we take the right things at the right time so that we're able to have proper fuel to enable our body to function the following day. People feeding a family will not be feeding the same thing to different members of the family who are doing different things. So there's been a physiology lesson, there's been a deep understanding of who we are in terms of our natural physiology and what we take from food, which is a creation of Allah, for our benefit. We're not meant to abuse food. We're meant to understand how to use it for our benefit. So there's been a really important learning curve through Ramadan about the healthy balance of our life in terms of everything that comes into it, of exercise, of food, of rest, of activity. We then looked at how illness happens. Illness is, in the English, dis-ease. The body is out of balance, out of harmony. We've learnt how the illnesses of the body happen, how the illnesses of the heart, of the mind happen, and how spiritual illnesses, when they exist, have to be treated in the context of the emotional understanding of the personality of that person. In other words, how the spirit affects the mind, how the mind affects the spirit, and how, in fact, there is a mind-spirit-body harmony. We've learnt all of this under the umbrella of the Quran. The Quran, taken in its intensity through the month of Ramadan, you're finally able to understand how one chapter links with another because you've read them consecutively, how one ayat that you've read 100 times before, suddenly you understand it. And this guiding revelation will deepen your understanding of your tawheed. Who are we? What is it to be this human organism that we've learned how to do the right, keep it healthy, how to keep it healthy, how to keep in peace and not be angry. We've learned about the nafs and so on. But why? What's the point of being human? That is what we have to address profoundly in the month of Ramadan. That is the point of our fasting and our prayer during the month of Ramadan, to deepen the fundamental understanding of that. What is the purpose of any human person on this planet? They are the creature of Allah. They are loved. They were put on this earth for a reason. Their existence was known before time began, and they will return and be accountable for their life. That fitra was known to hunter-gatherer man. It didn't need religion to teach hunter-gatherer man. But guidance has been necessary from religion over the years. And it's been good to explore what we learn from the religion of Islam. We went back to our understanding of not just the understanding of how we use our daily life to achieve health, but how we look at the healing of the sick person and the understanding of the cause of illness of the sick person. The sick person in the context of a physical illness, which they have caused themselves because they've been doing wrong things, or the illness of a person who is troubled in their mind, possibly because of faulty upbringing from childhood, possibly because of terrible tragedy and loss, or many other reasons of grief and disaster that has led them to completely be disorientated of who they are. How does the Quran help us to frame the understanding of how to heal these people, to heal them as a physician, or to help them to seek spiritual healing? So we looked very closely at the medicine at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, which was already quite sophisticated medicine because the early Muslims were travelers and they had medicine from China, medicine from India, and their own traditional medicines. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, was very clear that he wanted people to seek medicine from physicians. He took the advice of physicians himself. He applied medicine and asked for healing for his family from other physicians, and he took medicine himself. There was a broad range of traditional medicines which we've explored. The Prophet, however, didn't confine himself to the simple treatments, and he made it very clear that whatever the treatments were, whatever their proven merit, that medicine could only work, even if it was rubbish, it could only work by the will of Allah. That everything that happens to us, our laughter and our tears, our waking and our sleeping, is governed by the will of Allah and by the constant knowledge and presence and attention of Allah, who is with us at every second and never leaves us. That principle of Tawheed was absolutely fundamental and threaded through every aspect of the Prophet's treatment of the sick. We looked also not just at the illnesses which we cause ourselves, because we're faulty people, we don't look after ourselves properly, we follow our desires and our anger, and we go down faulty pathways. We make ourselves sick. Allah is compassionate and merciful and helps us heal ourselves. But sometimes calamities happen to us. Those calamities can make us deeply troubled because they take away our wealth, they take away our health, they take away our family. Please return after the break for the final summing up of the rich treasure that has been uncovered during this holy month of Ramadan. Welcome back. We were talking about the understanding of the different type of healing required for situations where an illness is not your fault, but is the result of some circumstance out of your control, which has either led to a terrible tragedy and a loss of your health, your wealth, and your family, or has caused you an illness which could be physical or mental. We have biochemical mental illness, which fundamentally affects the human personality. And yet we have to know and cherish and love the people whose moral dimension is profoundly affected by their illness. The only illness mentioned in Quran is in fact dementia, where Allah in His wisdom causes man to lose the knowledge that he had taken such pride in. Everything, even what we feel to be our most intimate possession, which is our knowledge of who we are, that sense of I, that sense of what I know, Allah can take that away. We are His slaves and His servants. We are in His hands. It's very important looking at what we understand about illness, to understand how we must be to the sick, to members of our family who are suffering, to the elderly who are becoming frail and forgetful, to our brother who may be hallucinating and have a psychotic illness with very disturbed behavior. We must understand and love them, for they are still cherished by Allah, and this is part of their destiny. And this moral compass accompanies, absolutely underlies everything in Islam that governs our care of our families or within a professional life, our patients. For the individual who is sick, we looked very carefully at how they may seek healing. The healing can come from medicine. The medicine can be traditional medicine. And we explored together the infinite, exciting result of the knowledge of the religion of Islam combined with wealth on the development of Islamic science up to the 12th century. This was a golden age of medicine. Scientific knowledge flourished, philosophical knowledge flourished. These were great people, and their knowledge is still available to us today. And I have urged you to go back to the old texts and revise and revive the sciences that need to come back today because modern medicine is losing its way. We looked at modern medicine, not for you to junk it, not for you to know that because its moral dimension is failing, because it's valuing the computer over the human, that we should completely dismiss it. Allah has allowed us to invent certain things, and even though some aspects of it are deeply corrupt, if that modern medicine is going to heal you, avail yourself of it. If Allah wants it to happen, it will benefit you. But be cautious. But is medicine all? Of course not. In the Quran, we discover through the month of Ramadan, we discover Allah's guidance of the nature of illness, of why He sends us illness, and of the ways by which we may call on Him for help. We are reassured that for every illness there is a cure, and the cure is in the hands of Allah. We have to discover it. We have to do our work to find it. Our work is to seek a physician. Our work is also to pray. Our work is to pray with dua. Our work is to pray with the Quran. Our work is to pray simply when we're at our most exhausted, just with the name of Allah. As long as you're alive, your heart is beating. And the beat of your heart goes Allah, Allah, Allah. As long as you know that Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein, and you're listening to him. We've looked deeply at how to be spiritual people in a material world. Unfortunately, I've only been a Muslim a relatively short time. So I've learnt a little bit of intellectual understanding. Inshallah, I'm in awe. I'm in awe of what I see of the creation of Allah. As a scientist, I marvel, I weep at the beauty of his creation. I weep also at what man is doing to it. I understand and I know, even though I am the blink of an eye on June the 23rd, I am nothing in terms of the time of Allah's cosmos, nothing. And yet, every moment of my life, every second of my consciousness and my sleep is precious to Allah. The point of our lives, Ramadan to Ramadan to Ramadan, is to deepen this spiritual understanding, not to live on two tracks of when I say my salat and when I pray and when I read Quran, and then you go off into your dunya life and you have two ways to be. You can't. Allah is in everything. He's in every moment. Everywhere you look, there is the face of God. Everywhere. There is no corner of your experience or consciousness in which Allah is not present with you. Knowing that deeply and trusting Allah deeply and gradually deepening your conversation, your prayer, your understanding of what that means is the beginning of spiritual intelligence. Without meaning to, it should change you. I'm still a baby Muslim, but I hope some of you will have met people who've been on this path for a long time, and you will recognize them. They won't be the person with the flash coat who's laughing loudly, who's creating attention. They'll be the quiet person by the shoes. But when you're sitting next to them, you feel a strange tranquility. You're glad to be in their presence. When they look at you, you realize they're not actually looking at you for your wit and for your beauty and for the way you've tied your hijab or the fact that you've got a particularly clever new costume on. You realize none of that matters to them. They're looking at something about you which is an inner being, and it is who you really are inside, not this external fake costume of pretend with which you hide yourself, your failings, and sadly your talents from a wider world. We need to be like the saints. We need to aspire to be the saints. I'm saying this as a completely ordinary person. I'm a doctor, I'm not an alim. I make mistakes, I miss my prayers. Astaghfirullah, I'm not a good Muslim, not as I should be. But I do understand where I'm looking at. I do understand the journey. I do understand that I want to do better. I can only be as Allah wishes me to be. He knows my failings, He knows where I've come from, and He knows my capacity. In Ramadan, the weakness of the fast gives you strength. Isn't that a paradox? But anyone who has fasted for the month of Ramadan knows that to be an absolute truth. I don't know, I don't understand it, but it is a truth. You are stronger in your iman. You're stronger in your deep, deep knowledge and certainty that what matters, what really matters, is that you are Allah's creation, that you are cherished, and that you must represent Allah on this earth. Please forgive me for the many mistakes I have made in talking to you over the past month. Know that I'm just another failing, simple pilgrim on the path to Allah. I hope you've caught, though, some of my enthusiasm, some of my passion, that even though I've got a long way to go and I'm very old, I trust Allah. And even if I don't get there, He will give me the benefit of my intention. I love that bit, that even though you're no good, because you want to be, Allah will make you what you intend. Eid Mubarak.